Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Sunday, May the 5th, 2019, 6:13 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So tonight is our weekly methane update with Nostradoomus. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at his numbers. I've got some charts. I've got spreadsheet. I've got we're going to see what the methane has been doing, and then we're going to see the latest data from CAMS on methane, and then we will look at earthquakes. So that's the plan for our show tonight. So the first thing that we're going to pull up is Nostradoomus' methane report from this week. He left it as a comment under my video from last night, so if people want to see it, you can certainly go there. And this is from Nostradoomus, our friend Dave Alcock in the UK, and we've collaborated on this effort here since March the 1st. He is tracking methane data from the NOAA satellites. There are four readings that he takes every week on Saturday from two different satellites, morning and afternoon, on MEDOP 1 and MEDOP 2, and on these four different levels, millibars or HPA up in the atmosphere. And then he calculates the overall mean and how much it's gone up or gone down since last week. And he's added a new feature this week, and so have I. So we're going to start with his report, and then we'll look at the spreadsheets that I put together from his data, and we'll see what's going on. So Nostradoomus says, "Hi Margo and everyone. Here is the latest methane data, parts per billion, from the MEDOP satellites provided by NOAA, dated May 4th, 2019. So here are the millibars. He's reading at 931, 706, 477, and 300. That's sea level pressure. And so here's the data from each one of those. And then he says it all dropped from last week. Every single one of them went down from last week. On 931 millibars, overall it dropped 2.25 parts per billion. At 706 millibars, it dropped 2.75 parts per billion. At 477 millibars, it dropped 4.5 parts per billion. And at 300 millibars, it dropped 1.75 parts per billion. Overall drop in concentration is 2.81 parts per billion, following last week's rise of 3.4 parts per billion. Now, that was part one. So here's part two of his report. To smooth out these large fluctuations, I've been calculating a 3-week rolling average to find the trend on the data, and here are my figures. And so this was the mean for overall for it's 7 weeks, including today's report. And so we can see from where it started, it's gone up and then gone down. And but we've been tracking this since March the 1st, so it's more than 7 weeks. Anyway, he says, as you can see, since hitting a high 4 weeks ago, methane has been steadily decreasing by an average of 0.575 parts per billion per week. I'm anticipating this trend to reverse soon as the northern hemisphere moves swiftly into summer. Much love, Dave." And I say thank you for tracking and reporting on this, Dave. We'll keep monitoring these levels. They should start rising soon. So thank you, Dave, for bringing this data to us consistently week after week. And we are doing this as citizen researchers, and because nobody else is doing it, and the expert, quote, experts, unquote, are not doing this, and so we're doing it on our own to see if we can notice the rise and how fast it rises. And we're still in the time period where typically the methane should be dropping until about June or July, and that's typically, but of course we're in no man's land now, and everything is off the table. So here's my spreadsheet with the data. Hang on, let me open this up here. And I've collapsed some windows so that I can just scroll across with the days. And at the bottom here is a little helper chart, so that if you're not familiar with what millibars is, it's how high up in the atmosphere it is. So 931 millibars is about 1,000 feet above, within 1,000 feet of the surface of the planet, or 304 meters. 706 millibars is about 10,000 feet up, or 3,048 meters. 477 millibars is about 20,000 feet up, or 6,096 meters, and 300 millibars equals 30,000 feet, or 9,144 meters. So as you go higher in the atmosphere, these millibar numbers get smaller. So so here we are from today, from the METOP-1 satellite, from the AM. It was at 931 millibars, it was 1,800, so that's down 2 parts per billion. At 706 millibars, it was 1,831, so that's down 4. At 477 millibars, it was 1,876, so it was down 4. And at 300 millibars, it was 1,880, so that was up 2. So I'm tracking the 477 millibars since March the 1st readings, and since last week on this satellite 477 millibars went down 4 parts per billion, but since March the 1st it's still gone up 6 parts per billion. Now on the METOP-1 PM reading this week's reading, at 931 millibars it was 1,803, so it was up 1 from last week. At 706 millibars it was 1,833, which was the same as last week. At 477 millibars it was 1,873, so it went down 4 since last week. And at 300 millibars it was also 1,873, and it went down 4. So at 477 millibars for METOP-1 PM, this week it's gone down 4, but since March 1st it's gone up 4 parts per billion. Now for MET-OP 2 AM for this week, at 931 millibars, it read 1799, so it's gone down 5 since last week. At 706 millibars, the reading was 1822, so it's gone down 4 since last week. At 477 millibars, it read 1851 this week, so it's gone down 5 since last week. At 300 millibars, it read 1842, so it's gone down 2. So at 477 millibars, it's gone down 5 parts per billion since last week, but it's still gone up 6 parts per billion since March 1st on this satellite reading. Okay, on MET-OP 2 in the PM, for this week, the reading was 1801 for 931 millibars, gone down 3 since last week. At 706 millibars, it was 1823, which went down 3 since last week. At 477 millibars, the reading was 1848, and that went down 5 since last week. And at 300 millibars, it was 1838, and it's gone down 3 since last week, sorry. So on 477 millibars, it went down 5 since last week, but it's still 3 parts per billion higher since March the 1st on this satellite. And then I averaged all these readings out for the 477 millibars, so overall it's gone down 4.5 parts per billion this last week, but it's still up overall 4.75 parts per billion since March the 1st. And also, here I added this line, this 477 millibar mean. Here's all the readings of the mean, and that tallies up with this reading up here. Now, I plugged in these figures to a spreadsheet, to a different spreadsheet. What am I doing? Okay, here we go. Now here I took, I put in the date of the reading, and remember we had a couple of readings that were just a day apart for different reasons, and I left those in here because I found them interesting. And then we've got 477, hang on, move that so you can see it. Here's the date of the reading. Here was the 477 millibar mean reading over here in this column, and then I created this chart from this data. So here it is for March the 1st, and the mean reading was 1857.25, so that's where we started on March the 1st. And then here's where it went up on the next reading and the next reading, and so forth. And so we can see the plot on the graph where it goes up. So the highest one was right here. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. The highest one was right here, which was, if we look right over here on the chart, which was April the 6th, 866.50. That was the highest one, and then it started going down since then. And then the next one was 864.25. and then 861, and then last week it hopped up to 1861, not 861. Anyway, you know what I mean. And then on the 27th, it hopped up to 1866. Here's 1866, see, over here on the reading. And then this week, it fell down to 1862. So we can see that it goes up and down, and this is typical when you see charts like this where they're tracking either methane or carbon dioxide or something like that. You'll see little dots where they go up and down, but then you see the general trend is up. So you look from the beginning to where you ended, and the general trend is we're still higher than where we started. So there's that spreadsheet. And then I made another chart. This is using Dave's overall mean data for 7 weeks, starting from the reading for yesterday. So we're going backwards here. So this doesn't go back to March the 1st. If we went back to March the 1st, it would be, I'm pretty certain it would be higher. But we can see that on March the 23rd, right here, March the 23rd, we're starting at 1839 parts per billion, and then the next one was 1839.10, and then 1840.10 is the high one for April the 6th right there. And then here's our 1839.7 coming down, 1838.5, 1838.3, and then the reading from yesterday was 1837.8. So that's all the data I have from him. So I'm going to keep adding to this every week, and we'll see how these charts change. But I'm very pleased with doing these plots, and so it's an easy way to see what's going on. So I hope you like that. So now we're going to look at cams. I have the movie loaded up. Our latest data is from Friday, May the 3rd. I have the North Pole view loaded up and surface level. And so with this North Pole view, we can see the whole northern hemisphere. So here it is. The data is for Friday, May the 3rd. And of course today is the 5th. So here's where it ended then on Thursday. And we're seeing that the Arctic is pretty quiet. We're still having some release over here to the east of Novaya Zemlya in the Kara Sea. We're still having release over here in Siberia. And I'm going to talk about this in another show, but I think Dave and I have figured out what is causing this continuous release of methane and sulfur dioxide in this area here. That's another show. So this is where it ended on Thursday, with high releases in Ireland, the UK, Europe, again India, China, and then very high releases showing up in the US as we watch the movie roll. They've had a lot of rain. over in the eastern part of the United States, and whenever you have a lot of precipitation, it's going to increase the methane levels. And also the temperatures are starting to come back somewhat, and although it's been cool here in Reno this week, but and Climate Reanalyzer, it'll come back online and then it goes away, and so I'm assuming they still have problems with their cloud server over there, so we'll look forward to having that back up. So there's that from the North Pole view. So let's just go to global view now. So you can see what's going on in your neck of the woods. And we'll let this movie load up. I'm still recovering from my ordeal. Tell you, my body is just not used to moving furniture and tires and rearranging storage units and lots of stuff I was having to do. But I survived the attack from the dark side. So here we are globally. So you can just see where you're located. We're seeing some high releases off this northern island of New Zealand. It's kind of hard to see on this view, but if we took the Australasia view, we'd be able to see Australia and New Zealand. But you can see it's dark up there. I think they've been getting some rain. So we can see the Arctic is very quiet methane-wise compared to what it was a month ago. Now here it is popping up in the forecast period, large release there in the forecast period. So considering what it was, those big waves coming out, we're not seeing that at least. So now we're going to look at 500 HPA. That's as close as we can get on cams to the 477 millibars. So it's actually looking better in my mind because we have more areas that are not solid red, but it'll go back to the red. I mean, once the methane levels start increasing and the temperatures really start heating up. We haven't really started seeing a lot of hot weather yet, but we're still seeing high levels over here in China, even at the 500 HPA level. Here's China, and here's another part of China and Russia, and here's these Scandinavian countries, and out of the Arctic or over the Arctic Ocean, and here it is where it's moving up, migrating into the Arctic from these southern levels. It moves up north because methane tends to gather in the cold. It likes to gather in the colder temperatures, so that's why we see it gathering, moving up. Look at this coming across the Pacific Ocean, coming up anyway. So I'm going to pause that and leave this as our backdrop. And now, before we go to earthquakes, let's see, let's get our latest reading from the Oroville lake level. I'm tracking that and the dam. And our latest reading from 6 p.m. tonight is 886.47 feet. That is the level of the lake in this reservoir at Oroville. I've been talking about it. So let's see how much it's gone up today. 886.47 minus, and at midnight it was 886.10. So it's gone up 0.37 feet today. So not half a foot. So it slowed down on the melt right now, or the inflow. It slowed down significantly, but I anticipate it to pick back up. And yesterday, on May the 4th, from midnight to midnight, it went up 0.46 feet, so about half a foot. So it's still rising, and it's a little easier to see if we open this in Excel in the spreadsheet view. Still kind of tiny, but we can see this is the inflow. So the inflow has been, the highest it's been today has been this reading right here at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The inflow was 14,174 cubic feet per second, and the outflow at 3 o'clock was 9,393 cubic feet per second. So the outflow is still around, averaged out around 9,500 CFS, and the inflow has been, the lowest was, since 7 o'clock this morning, was 12,226, and then the 14,174 is the highest. And at 6 o'clock it was inflow was 13,128. So here's the lake level right now, 886.47. So it's rising, getting on up there. So we're just watching and waiting. Now let's go to our earthquakes. Since we got all caught up on earthquakes yesterday, this should go a lot faster. I'm still hoarse, so I apologize for squeaking or having to clear my throat, but it's the way it is. Okay, we're looking at USGS for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours. We're showing 213 on the map. Of those, 38 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. And we're going to start with this area, this huge cluster down here in Indonesia and the Philippines. There's definitely an event going on down here. I don't know any other way to call it. But in this area, in the last 24 hours, there have been 12 large earthquakes. I mean, these are mid-4s and up. We had 2 5.0s and the rest are 4s. So I'm going to start with this one right here. This might have been included on my report last night. If so, that's okay. It's just a little overlap. So this 5.0 near Eris Asan came in last night at 6:56 p.m. These times I'm going to be telling you are all Pacific time because that's my time zone. Next was a 4.6. Well, I'm just going to go around like I normally do. It's easier. Then we got 2 on this little island. Well, next to and on this little island, Sarangani. This 4.6 at 9:42 last night, and another 4.6 at 6:55 this morning, right there next to each other. Then 4.2 near Tobelo, Indonesia at 3:13 this morning, 124 kilometers deep. Next, a 4.7 near Kota Ternate at 4:59 this afternoon. 4.4 near Bitung at 5:33 this morning, 111 kilometers deep. Next, 4.4 near Kali at 7:40 this morning, 541 kilometers deep. Very deep. And the deep ones are what will make those tectonic plates move around the planet. Next is a 4.7 near Luwuk at 9:25 this morning. Then coming on around, 5.0 near Amahusu at 2:40 this morning, another deep one, 301 kilometers deep. 4.6 Samlaki at 8:16 this morning, 147 kilometers deep. And then this 5.2 on land, Kainantu, Papua New Guinea at 1:42 this morning, 122 kilometers deep. That's big enough that it could have caused damage if it was near a populated area or a lot of buildings. And then here's a 4.4 magnitude near Cinnabon. Now there's a volcano over here at 3:07 this morning, 37 kilometers deep. So that's the big event going on right here. That is all of these. This area is, very earthquake prone, lots of volcanoes. Everything triggers, things just set each other off because the magma moves and flows and triggers other stuff too. Then up here on land was a 4.6 near Karakol, Kyrgyzstan at 11:54 last night. Then down here in Central America were 2 off the coast near El Salvador, Nicaragua. Here's a 4.3 near Jiquilillo, Nicaragua at 10:58 this morning, and a 4.6 near Puerto El Triunfo, El Salvador at 1:12 this afternoon. So that's all of the international earthquakes. So now we're going to go to 2.5 magnitude and higher. get this one. Yeah, Cinnabon. Now we're going to go to Hawaii. We're seeing 5 here today. Here's a 2.4 at Kilauea, 2.0 Pahala, 1.7. That's near Volcano. It's on the flank of Kilauea. 2.0 Kilauea and a 1.7 at Kilauea. So there's the crater, and they're right around the edge of the crater and on the flanks of this Kilauea volcano. And remember, it was just about a year ago when this thing collapsed, and it was flowing, all that lava was flowing into the ocean, and huge thing. So this has been an event since a year ago. May the 3rd, I think, is when it collapsed. Last year. Now at the Dominican Republic, we're seeing 14 here today. I'll just call them off. 1.9, 2.8, 1.2, 2.6, 1.8, 2.6, 2.3, 2.1, 2.9, 2.5, 1.1, 2.9, 2.5, and 2.1. So those are not big enough to do damage, but they're showing movement. Now, in the Alaska region, we've got 79 here today, so that's a little fewer. They average between 50 and 100 a day. So we're going to start with 2.5 magnitude and higher. 3.9 Tananga Volcano. Now this is in the Aleutian Islands. This whole chain is like 104 volcanoes all along here. Here's a 3.0 Unalaska Island. Here's a 3.4 Kodiak and a 2.6 Talkeetna. That's just north of Anchorage. So 2.3 False Pass. Now, I was looking here earlier. This is the Redoubt volcano area, and they've had quite a few right here at Redoubt. 2.2, 1.9, 1.7, and a 1.9. So there's still, when you look at sulfur dioxide on cams, there's a release coming from this area. It's not bright red pluming out like we saw from Russia, but there is definitely release, constant release. Now in this Anchorage area, we've got 24 here today. If we back out, in this view, there's 37. So we can see the movement spreading out, the earthquakes moving out, moving out. And let's look at Kobuk today. There are 20 here today. These are under 2.5 magnitude. I saw an article on Facebook, just a posting on Facebook today, about some adventurer, I can't even remember his name, and he fell through the ice on Kobuk River. He was an adventurer, and I don't know what he was doing, but he fell through the ice and perished because I guess he expected the ice to be thicker and to be able to support himself. But that was on Facebook today, and I think it happened yesterday. But you know, it's what's going to happen as things warm up, and these people who are adventurers and who are used to going out and exploring the wild blue yonder and being able to take on the elements. I mean, you know, you need to think about, is this going to be solid or not? And don't just go with the adrenaline, with the rush of, you know, trying to climb that mountain or walk out on that ice or whatever he was doing. I don't even know what he was doing, but you know, there are going to be more and more casualties like this, and that could have been prevented. You know, he didn't have to go out there, but that's what he did. He was an adventurer. So there you have it. So we've got them peppered around. We can see the movement moving on up through the state. So yeah, it's sad, but you know, I kind of think it could have been prevented. He didn't have to go out there, but he did what he did, and he died doing what he loved. So, and now he won't have to suffer the end. He won't have to suffer whatever's coming for the rest of us. So, he probably died pretty fast. Here's an ice quake, a 1.5 magnitude ice quake near Cape Yakataga. We've seen those before. Right on the red line. Now let's come on down to the lower 48, and the earthquake makers are not at work today. They're taking the weekend off because that's what they do. So we should not see any blasting or explosions, but in spite of that, we've got some strange, a lot of high activity in places that we need to keep an eye on. Okay, Utah is clear. Now let's move on up to Yellowstone. We've got 5 here today. We've got a 1.9 Lincoln, Montana, a 2.6 Challis, Idaho, and 1.7 Challis, Idaho, 2.7 Soda Springs, Idaho, and a 2.8 Soda Springs, Idaho. So they're happening in pairs again, is what we're seeing. Now up here in the Pacific Northwest, here's okay, I'm going to get these Idaho ones off the map here. We've got this 2.0 near Milwaukee, Oregon, right next to Portland. Now, let's look at our tremor map. Look at these tremors. It's right where that earthquake happened. I swear it's right. I mean, it's like right where it happened. So in the last 3 hours, let's refresh this. We have 1 hour of tremors. So a third of the time, the earth is shaking in the last 3 hours. Let's see when that earthquake happened. That happened last night at 11:48 p.m. And I showed you all these tremors. It was unbelievable last night. Unbelievable. Here it is for the last 12 hours. 7.6 hours of tremors right there. Seriously, they're just piled up right there. In the last 24 hours, 13.9 hours of tremors. So it's all piled up right there. So, and then here's a little bit on Vancouver Island. So I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that more earthquakes are not being reported up here with all those tremors. Now, let's come on down to this event happening on this Juan de Fuca plate. We've got 4 right here on this western edge. We've got, 5. I guess they're piled up here. 3.1 at 9:17 last night. Here's a 3.3 at 11:29 last night. 4.3 at 11:32 last night, 4.8 at 11:46 last night, and a 3.2 at 12:12 midnight this morning. And then right on across at the bottom of this Juan de Fuca plate, where this red line comes on over, we've got 3 more right here at Petrolia. A 2.8 at 2:13 this morning, 2.3, 2:23 this morning, and a 2.4 at 9:17. So these 5, where am I? Getting lost. These 5 happened first, and then moved it on over, and then these 3 happened. So stuff is happening, and I'm expecting some major stuff to happen real soon up here. Here's a 3.3 Fort Bragg at 11:47 last night. 2.3 Redwood Valley at 1:07 this morning. Now remember, we saw a whole cluster over there in the last few days. Okay, so that's Northern California, except for the geysers. We'll go ahead and cover that while we're here. In the geysers area, we have 17. So that number has gone down. Maybe they're not doing their geothermal pumping operation on the weekend. So they have 17 instead of 88. 0.7 near Truckee, California. Here's a 0.4 southeast of Reno. Let's see where that is. That is, now here's 395 that goes down to Carson City. So this is to the east of the highway, kind of in the foothills. It's not exactly in the mountains. There's a little valley. Well, it's Carson Valley. It looks like that's actually in the valley. And this is a neighborhood. I know this area. People live here. It's really beautiful there. So that one happened in Carson Valley. It's very beautiful through there. And then here's a minus 0.1 in Spanish Springs, and it's actually just southwest of Pyramid Lake. And we can see these south of Fallon, nothing there. Now here's another one at Austin, a 3.1 that came in at 4:01 this morning at the surface. 0 kilometers depth. And remember, we saw this whole cluster here the last few days. And then moving on down, we've gotten, trying to get California off the map here. We've got 5 here in the Hawthorne. Well, 3 in the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Hawthorne area. That's a 1.2. So they're small down there. And now down in southern Nevada, We've got 7 here. The biggest one was this 1.0 near Bunkerville. Bunkerville! Do you think, can you guess why it's named Bunkerville? Could they have a bunker there? Maybe an underground bunker? Maybe so. Maybe so. What a concept. Alright. Here is Mammoth Lakes and Tom's Place. Where are all these? I'm not seeing all of these. Oh, they're clustered. They're all stacked up. Look at that. We've got 4 stacked up right here. 1.7, 1.6, 1.9, 1.7. So that's getting a little higher in magnitude. And then here's a 2.0 coming on down. We've got 1.0 Lone Pine, 1.6 Cyril's Valley, 1.1 Inyo Kern, 0.5 Ridgecrest. Oh no, not an explosion. Please no. We've got a quarry blast on Sunday. They can't even not work on Sunday. A 1.7 magnitude quarry blast at Boren at 4:37 this afternoon. So there you go. They can't even not blast on Sunday. It just bothers me. This whole thing just bothers me. This whole world is just getting to me. 34 here in Southern California today. Let's see if there are any 2.5 and higher. 2.5 at the Pinnacles. We saw those. 3.3 Fort Bragg. We saw that. See? Here's the San Andreas fault line, and they're all lined up right next to it. So 34 here today. All clustering around. It's 2.2 and so on. Now we're going to come on up. 1.4 Orcutt. 2.1 Parkfield. Now we're having a little event here. Oh my God, 5 at the Pinnacles. .6, 1.4, 1.7, that's at Tres Pinos, 2.5 and 1.8. So I'm telling you, things are happening. They're definitely happening. And I expect major stuff to be happening soon here. 2.2 at Berkeley today. 5:43 this morning. So we can see an uptick with, well, first of all, this one happened up here where all these tremors happened, right next to Portland. Right there. So the tremors don't lie. That's the movement before they become earthquakes. So we got these here and these here, and this is the Cascadia subduction zone where these plates are, one's moving under the other and pushing one up and the other one's going down, and this is why we're having this movement come down the San Andreas fault line, and it's a whole thing. So it's when one of these things goes, it's going to be like dominoes going. It's going to be huge. And so this is why I tell everyone, You need to get your spiritual house in order now. We just had a 2.1 at Larson Bay, Alaska. You need to get your spiritual house in order while you still have time. Because if you're worried about an earthquake, or you're trying to survive a tsunami, or you've got a landslide, or a fire, or whatever, you're not thinking about where your soul's going to go. So you need to get that out of the way. You need to get that taken care of, and just know that your soul is good, that it's not going to be trapped by Satan. And Jesus promises everlasting life in the spiritual realms, not for the physical body, because he says that this is not his world, and this is not our world. This world is ruled by Satan. It was taken over and it's ruled by Satan. But we have free will, and we can choose who we're going to follow. We can choose. And so all I'm saying is, now is the time to make that choice, and to consciously out loud make that choice and make that commitment today, right now. Because pretty soon it's going to be too late. So I love you guys. I pray for everybody all the time. And by the way, yeah, my internet line got cut, but I'm protected by God and Jesus because I'm here on a mission from God. And I was not physically hurt. I was not physically harmed. And I'll recover from the toxins I was exposed to and my sore muscles. You know, it was inconvenient. It was hard on me. But I knew I was under attack. And everybody's under attack. But I just stand strong in my faith and in my belief. So, until next time, God bless you. Go in peace. And I'll talk to you soon. Good night.